In the quiet, seemingly peaceful town of Travelers Rest, South Carolina, the disappearance of 80-year-old Edna Suttles sent shockwaves through the community. A devoted single mother and home care assistant, Suttles raised 3 children. At age 80, she continued to work, demonstrating her unwavering dedication. When she failed to show up for an appointment with a client, alarm bells rang. Hours later, 911 dispatchers received a concerning call. A friend reported, "This is not like her," the friend emphasized. "She shows up like clockwork, so something's wrong." This call was only the beginning of a long chain of mysteries. Officers arrived at Edna Suttles' home for a welfare check, but received no response. There were no signs of a break-in, and Edna was nowhere to be found. However, when police questioned Edna's son pointed out that $50,000 worth of jewelry was missing from the home. More importantly, her car was also gone. Detectives reasoned that finding Edna's vehicle would be the most instrumental step in this investigation, as it would provide a clue about her last known whereabouts. Immediately, a search for Edna's car began, and 6 days later, it was found abandoned in the parking lot of a hotel in Travelers Rest. This was odd, as Edna lived close by and had no reason to stay at a hotel. A check with the hotel staff revealed that no one under the name of Edna was staying there. Detectives decided to try and trace back Edna's movements using CCTV cameras, starting from her home. At 9:30 a.m., a camera at a nearby pawn shop captured Edna leaving her home and driving towards a local Food Lion grocery store. 9 minutes later, Edna arrived at the store to pick something up. A man approached the vehicle with 2 bags in his hand and sat alongside Edna, who then drove off back to her home. 4 hours later, at 1:43 p.m., Edna's car left her home again and arrived at the same Food Lion once more. But this time, the person exiting the driver's seat wasn't Edna at all. It was the same older white man she had picked up earlier. He immediately moved to his car and parked next to Edna's. He then dragged something out of her car, placing it into his. Initially, it was difficult to identify what the man moved from the Jeep to the Chevrolet, but after a frame-by-frame analysis, it became clear it wasn't a question of what was moved, but who. In a chilling discovery, officers realized the footage showed the unmistakable golden hair of Edna Suttles. 4 minutes later, at 1:47 p.m., the man drove Edna's car into the hotel's parking lot and parked it in the same spot that the detectives found the vehicle. He exited and began wiping down the door and seats, trying to get rid of any evidence of his presence. By 2:14 p.m., the man returned to his vehicle at Food Lion and drove off, marking the last time Edna and the man were seen. Detectives determined that the most crucial part of this investigation was to now figure out who exactly the man in the video was. However, due to the grainy footage and his distance from most cameras, this proved to be difficult, and the investigation seemed like it would come to a standstill. But detectives had an idea. Detectives reasoned that since the man exited the store with bags in his hand, a purchase was made, and this realization would be the most crucial breakthrough in the case. Immediately, officers began retrieving footage from inside the store, and when they reviewed it, officers came to a harrowing realization. This was Daniel Prince, a man who only 24 years prior to this had been put in federal prison for kidnapping. In 1997, Daniel was responsible for the kidnapping of a woman in Michigan. He had her tied up and shackled her hands, and it was by sheer luck that she managed to free herself before escaping. Even though he was sentenced to a maximum of 30 years for this crime, he was released by 2009 on parole. Investigators discovered that the worst was yet to come. Daniel began working as a handyman for predominantly elderly single ladies, a demographic that not only matched his previous victim, but also that of Edna. Officers began to realize they had a kidnapper on the run, and there might be a chance that he had kept Edna alive. Not knowing where she was, they had to act fast before this glimmer of hope dimmed. Even with this disturbing past, detectives didn't have enough evidence to press strong charges for kidnapping or murder. However, they had established probable cause for grand larceny involving Edna's Jeep. A warrant to arrest Daniel and search his property was granted, and officers were quickly dispatched to Daniel's residence to take him into custody. Despite the number of heavily armed officers that descended on Daniel's property, he remained noticeably calm and composed, as if he had a plan to escape this predicament. The following footage was analyzed by an in-house criminal research specialist and retired detective to shed some light on key techniques and strategies used during the questioning. When he was brought into the interrogation room, the detective started with a relaxed, friendly conversation, a tactic used to put suspects at ease. They didn't want him to know they had caught him on camera just yet. A detective asked, "What do you do now?" Daniel replied, "I do a lot of home remodeling, home repair. I do a lot of tile, and I got a customer base that has me doing stuff." A detective questioned, "Okay, well, why Bostic, North Carolina? Come all the way down from, say, Michigan or Wisconsin?" Daniel explained, "Okay, here this is real easy. I'm originally from the east side of the state of Michigan, but I was in prison in Michigan for a while, and when I paroled to the west side of the state." A detective asked, "Okay, what you get locked up for?" Because he said he got paroled. Daniel answered, "I was locked up for a kidnapping charge, okay, and I did 13 and a half years for that." A detective remarked, "Oh, wow. I did 1.5 years for a false statement on a vehicle title. You know, when they're not sure if they're going to make something, they want something to hold you with, so the false statement, that's all that was." A detective said, "The kidnapping. I was doing some bad expletive that I shouldn't have been doing, but I should have gotten kidnapping, but I was doing bad expletive." "What kind of expletive? What expletive have you gotten?" Daniel replied, "I really don't want to say." A detective said, "Huh? We're just bullshitting." Daniel stated, "Nothing when you're talking to two police detectives in a room. It's just bullshitting." "Okay, I've been through the system enough to know that all I'm going to say about that is I did my time. I made my first PR, and I haven't been in trouble since." A detective responded, "Hey, and that's great to know, you know, a lot of people, especially being what you've been through, they come out and they go right back to it." Detectives considered that just because he's a convicted criminal doesn't mean he's involved in Edna's disappearance, but the evidence they had painted a different picture altogether from the hard-working, reformed criminal he claimed to be. A detective asked, "I talk you August 27, 2021 of this year. What day of the week was that?" Daniel replied, "It was a Friday." A detective inquired, Okay, so specifically the 27th. What, 2 weeks ago? Do you remember where you were at?" Daniel asked, "No, specifically. Where do you think you were at?" Daniel explained, "I've been going all over the place. I've been back and forth to Charlotte. I've been down to South Carolina. Like, where's your jobs in South Carolina taking you?" Daniel said, Actually, I was down Traveler's Rest, but I don't know if it was Friday or Thursday. I know I've been there earlier that week, but you don't remember which day specifically." Daniel answered, "No, it was either Thursday or Friday." A detective asked, "What kind of job were you working on?" Daniel replied, "I wasn't. You wasn't. I wasn't. This lady had talked to me several times. I'd been down to her house 2 or 3 times. We kind of got to be friends. This woman has so many damn problems. Mostly her daughter. She would call me and have me come down there. Okay. She said she needed to have money at one point in time to help her daughter because her daughter was in jail. Then she needed money another time because she was hiring a private investigator because her son-in-law was. She talked to me all kinds of stuff about it. We got to be pretty good friends about stuff like that." A detective asked, "Okay, how'd you meet her initially?" Daniel replied, "Years ago? Okay, years ago. It was somebody giving me her name or number or her my name and number." Detectives analyzed his behavior and allowed Daniel to dig a hole for himself that he's going to struggle to escape from. When they reveal they know the truth, he's going to try and deny his guilt, even when the evidence speaks for itself. A detective asked, What you're telling us is that's not you on the 27th Food Lion parking lot, Travelers Rest. Daniel replied, I don't think so. That's not you, that's me. Where's that Food Lion? August 27th, 2021, 9:23, okay? 2 seconds, bringing a bell. Yeah, I went down to food, yeah. So what were you doing down there that day? Daniel explained. She wanted me to look at some stuff at her house, okay? And she picked me up at Food Lion because she wanted me with her when she was going to go meet some guy for private investigator. Okay, yeah, tell us about that. Daniel stated, she wanted me to meet her down there. Okay, she was nervous because she says, I'm not sure I trust this guy. And she knows I've been in the military, and she says, will you meet me? She wanted me to see if this guy was going to meet her where he was supposed to meet her. Do you know where there was a hotel lobby that he had finally said, meet me at the hotel? Okay, she says, drive up there and see if he's there. And I drove up there, and things are starting to sound really squirrely to me. Detectives determined that this is a common deflective behavior. Daniel is not only trying to deflect suspicion away from himself, he's trying to point suspicion directly at someone else, in this case, the private investigator. According to Daniel, Edna wanted to meet the private investigator the day before she was reported missing, even though she didn't feel safe meeting him alone. Luckily, detectives have seen the whole thing on camera, and it completely contradicts everything Daniel is saying. A detective asked, what were you driving? Daniel replied, I was driving a blue car. Your wife's car or your car? My wife's car, so that's you all coming down 25, you and her together? A detective asked. It could be, okay, because that's their car. That's about 13:45 on the 27th, okay? So you're with her there? Daniel replied, yeah, okay, I guess. Yeah, I'm not saying yeah. I'm just saying that could be, it's a different angle. But, I mean, we've watched this car, right? Okay, here's you all in the hotel parking lot. Okay, yeah. Oh, look, there's you all backing in, yeah? And a couple of different copies of it backing in. Backing in? Yeah. Oh, look, you get out, nobody else gets out. I told you that you were walking around the car? Yeah, you wiped the entire car down because I was worried. You were worried, or is you walking across the parking lot in front of Little Caesars? And there's you getting back into your car and driving away. A detective said, oh, she's willing. Look, man, you are a good dude. I honestly do believe that you screwed up years and years ago. Daniel seems visibly stunned by the amount of photographic evidence the detective is showing him. And even though it can't be refuted, Daniel's going to try and lie his way out of it. But that's not the only evidence detectives managed to find along the way, as there's mud on the wheels of Daniel's car, leading detectives to believe he drove off-road to either kill Edna or to dump her body. And this is when we arrive at the pivotal moment where Daniel's story starts to fall apart. A detective asked, you're not a bad guy, right? Nobody is saying that you're some evil, twisted dude, MH, okay? We need to know, where as we processed the car, we found a dirt. Where did you go off-road? Where did you leave? Oh, I can tell you exactly where she and I had gone off-road, please. When we were going from 25 south, there was off to the right, there was a truck with a trailer and another vehicle there that had a for sale sign on it, and it looked like an older truck, and I need a work truck. And I went ahead and I pulled in, and with her, and then we pulled out. It was right there on 25. Even in the face of such overwhelming evidence, Daniel still denies any wrongdoing and even tries to take control of the situation, but detectives have him cornered, and he's quickly starting to struggle to maintain his composure. A detective asked, where's now her family is desperately looking for her? She's missing right now, yes. Dan, where is it? Daniel replied, I don't have a clue. I dropped her off at her house. A detective said, Dan, please listen. You did not drop her off at her house. We have followed that car the entire day, up and down 25. There's a number of minutes that are unaccounted for that are not by her house. Which car, mine or hers? Dan, stop playing games. You know what, okay, I can help you here. Gotta give me a second. You gotta let me answer the questions when they're asked. When I dropped her vehicle off, look for the guy. She said she wanted me to take her and drive around in my vehicle. So I left her vehicle. I went down to Food Lion, and she was in my vehicle with me, and I dropped her off at home. D, we watched the video. She is not the car sits there. It sits there, man. No, not in her car. No, my car, doctor. My car. You did not drop anyone off, man. I picked her back up, she said, in my car at Food Lion, and I went back and got her. No, you did not. The detectives are beginning to apply more pressure on Daniel, knowing everything he's telling them is a lie. But he continues to stay on the defense, even trying to brush off the facts that he might have destroyed potential evidence. A detective asked, I don't know where it is. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Damn. Let's go back to while you wiped the car down. What? What you said you were worried about? What? The only thing I did was because I knew I'd been in and out of her car all the time with her. I'm like, there is no way in hell I'm going to just leave this thing here because she's got somebody that's after her. Daniel tries to deflect suspicion again by suggesting Edna may have been in some kind of danger, but he doesn't realize just how prepared these detectives are. She said she didn't trust him. The PI, she hired as a PI. His story is totally different. He's been doing work for her. On the son-in-law thing. We've interviewed. He didn't meet her. So right. That's why I said she hired another PI. I'm sure you're recording this. It's not making sense of, you're the last person to be in a vehicle you wipe out of a lady that's missing. That sounds really fun, it does it. That's why we're here. I've been real honest with you guys. I told you what was going on. The detectives managed to get Daniel to admit he was with Edna on the day she disappeared. While Daniel tried to convince them he was helping her meet a suspicious private investigator, they know it's a desperate attempt to deflect suspicion and distance himself from the crime. Daniel insisted he dropped Edna off at her home safe and well, but the detectives established that he was the last person to see her alive, and because of this interrogation, they locked him into a lie that would eventually lead to a chilling confession. When detectives searched Daniel's property, they found several automatic weapons. Because of his previous convictions, he's forbidden from owning any firearms. That means he could be facing a federal charge and be detained for even longer. While he's detained, they continue to search his land and find one of the most crucial pieces of evidence yet: a yogurt cup. This is the yogurt he bought shortly before Edna disappeared, and it's laced with a cocktail of drugs: lorazepam, tramadol, and cyclobenzaprine. These drugs can cause central nervous system depression when they're combined. When this happens, the body's neurological functions slow down. In other words, you're under sedation, exactly as Edna was in the parking lot when she was seen in Daniel's car. After feeding her the laced yogurt, there's nothing Edna can do to stop him, and she's led away to her death at the hands of this sadistic killer. Daniel begins to realize he's cornered and has nowhere to run, so they bring him back in for more questioning, where he makes a full confession. He admits to 3 more murders, including the deaths of Lee Goodman, Dolores Sears, and her daughter, Nancy Rigo. However, Nancy began to have second thoughts and wanted to contact the police. Nancy Rigo was now his second victim. Even worse is the fact that for several years, Daniel began receiving Nancy's Social Security checks because she had given him her power of attorney. Moreover, the search of Daniel's property would also reveal several of Nancy's documents. Since 2017, after her murder, Daniel pretended to be Nancy by sending her family emails and messages in an attempt to prevent them from thinking that she was dead. Daniel's third victim was Lee Goodman, who allegedly attempted to rob him. According to Daniel, much like Nancy and Edna, her body was disposed of in some desolate area. Finally, Daniel's fourth and final victim was Edna Suttles, whose body would be found 1 year later on May 16, 2022, in a grave close to Daniel's home in Rutherford County. Although decomposed, officers were able to positively identify it as Edna and return the body to her loved ones. But even in the face of his crimes, he would never let go of his chance to leverage as much information as he could. Daniel said, "There was a lot of stuff in your B house. There could be a million explanations for some of that stuff, and I don't want to jump to conclusions. And if there is something that happened that you didn't intend to happen, let's talk about it." There are things that have to happen, and there are things that are going to happen, and I'm a realist, and I have acceptance with this. I would like a little bit of control in how they happen. One, if you tell them to turn that off, I will talk to you a little more freely when they turn the cameras off. Daniel makes a final attempt to take control and influence the outcome in his favor. Daniel avoided a trial by making a deal with authorities. He would tell them about the location of Edna's body, and in turn, his case would go federal because of the better living conditions in federal prisons. Not only that, but he would also avoid the death penalty and instead receive a life sentence. One would think that the detectives were naive to turn off their cameras and not record Daniel's confession. But unbeknownst to Daniel D., the investigators kept the backup audio recording running after shutting down the camera. This is the chilling confession he made. Daniel confessed, okay, let's put it this way. A person I was very good friends with wanted to do something to put someone basic out of their misery that was very closely related to them. That's one body. That person started having an extreme amount of guilt over this and decided they were going to go tell what had happened. That's the second body. There's a third body that I did not kill, and I knew that they'd be getting Social Security disability for the rest of their life. So I got rid of set bodies, for example, so that I could continue to use the car. By any chance, while he's getting all his skew away, can you just help me get that closure for In This Family? Not until I have this. I clam up like a clam if this doesn't go federal for everything. The echoes of Edna Suttles' disappearance lingered, a haunting reminder of the darkness that had infiltrated the tranquil facade of Travelers Rest. The quiet streets, once symbols of peaceful community, now held the chilling memory of Daniel's predatory actions. His ability to blend into the background to appear as a helpful neighbor had masked a sinister nature that preyed on the vulnerable. The details of Daniel's other victims painted a disturbing portrait of a man driven by a cold, calculating desire for control and gain. Dolores Sir's death, initially framed as an act of mercy, revealed a chilling disregard for human life. The subsequent murder of Nancy Rigo, a woman caught in the agonizing grip of guilt, underscored Daniel's ruthless efficiency. And the death of Lee Goodman, a life extinguished in a moment of alleged resistance, spoke to a violent undercurrent that simmered beneath his composed exterior. The investigation into Daniel's crimes became a meticulous process of piecing together fragments of his deception. Each recovered document, each analyzed piece of evidence, painted a clearer picture of his calculated cruelty. The discovery of Nancy Rigo's documents on Daniel's property, along with the revelation of his fraudulent collection of her Social Security benefits, exposed the depth of his depravity. He had not only taken her life, but had also assumed her identity, weaving a web of lies that extended beyond the grave. The recovery of Edna Suttles' body, though decomposed, provided a measure of closure for her grieving family. The physical evidence, though a grim testament to Daniel's brutality, served as a crucial piece in the puzzle of his crimes. The investigators' determination to uncover the truth, their unwavering pursuit of justice, ensured that Edna's memory would not be overshadowed by the darkness that had claimed her life. The backup audio recording, a silent witness to Daniel's chilling confession, became a crucial piece of evidence. It captured his detached, almost clinical description of the murders, his attempts to justify his actions, and his final desperate plea for control. The recording served as a stark reminder of the darkness that lurked within him, a darkness that had irrevocably shattered the lives of his victims and their families. The case of Daniel became a chilling study in the banality of evil. He wasn't a monstrous figure lurking in the shadows, but a seemingly ordinary man, a handyman, a neighbor. This ordinariness, this ability to blend seamlessly into the fabric of everyday life, made his crimes all the more terrifying. It served as a stark reminder that evil can wear a human face, that predators can hide in plain sight. If this story has left you as disturbed and captivated as it has us, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to our channel for more in-depth true crime stories. Your support helps us bring these important, often unsettling narratives to light. Thank you for watching, and remember, stay vigilant.